Hey there YouTube, it's Aaliyah. I just want to apologize in advance if my voice sounds a little bit more strained or scratchy today than normal. This is pretty much because last night I was out and I might have lost my voice a little bit, and I'm sure you're probably wondering what I was doing yesterday. Well, for those of you who maybe live in a YouTuber cave and don't get the latest YouTuber news, there are two British YouTubers called Dennis on Fire and Amazing Phil who happen to be doing a tour right now in the US, and they just had their stop here in Minnesota yesterday, so that's where I was, getting my cat whiskers on. Seriously though, the show was a lot of fun, and I hope that nobody's really wanting to find out in advance what might happen in the show because spoilers. Seriously though, we were specifically told both in video as well as during the show itself, don't spoil anything that happens during the show. Although since it's not actually part of the show itself, I feel okay with saying I got some really neat merch. See, they have these tour t-shirts here with the American flag because it's the US tour, as well as the matching poster, and then a wristband. As for the show itself, without actually spoiling anything, I feel it's safe to say that Dan and Phil definitely wrote it. Their creative fingerprints are all over it. It was just like watching one of their videos, except maybe a teensy bit more cheesy, but that's totally cool because it was still really fun to watch. I will admit I would have liked to be able to actually hear some more of the show, but I also kind of get that, when you have an entire theater filled with people that are all, super high energy and everybody's all excited, it's gonna get loud. There's just nothing you can really do about it, so, whatever. I'll find some way to figure out what I missed as far as what I couldn't hear or whatever. And then also because I was on a little bit of a time crunch of getting there and getting back home, I couldn't really stick around much to talk to people. That would have been a lot more fun if I had more time to actually stick around and interact with other Dan and Phil fans. I love the whole high energy interacting. That's why I love going to things like conventions or meetups and things like that. Those are some of my favorite parts of it. And that probably would have just made the whole thing a lot more fun if I had the time for that. And let's be real, if I could have actually at some point have done an actual meet and greet with Dan and Phil, that would have been awesome. But let's be real, I'm a broke graduate who cannot afford a VIP ticket. As it stands, I'm probably already out about a week's pay between my ticket and my merch. So a VIP ticket is not gonna happen. Not to mention, when it comes to the idea of a meet and greet with my favorite YouTubers or something, I would probably freeze up because I'm not the best at articulating my thoughts on the spot. It would be kind of difficult for me to figure out exactly what I wanted to say and articulate it in such a way that it didn't come out sounding like the same thing that everybody else that has done a meet and greet with people like them has said. It's difficult to say to YouTubers that you really like or really watch a lot what they can mean to some people. I mean, obviously the meaning's gonna change from person to person, but there are certain things that I think are particularly important, at least for me, on personal meaning of getting to go to events like these and see not just the YouTubers themselves, but also other fans of the same YouTube fandom, whatever you want to call it. Because, as someone who studied anthropology for 4 years of college, I learned that humans are very much social creatures. We crave connection with people, and currently we are living in this age with all of the technology. We have so many ways that we can find other people that we relate to or connect with, or however you want to put it. We have more opportunities for that kind of thing than pretty much ever. And even though sometimes people within this particular generation, the millennials and whatever the generation after millennials is going to end up being called, sometimes get teased or derided for living our lives behind a screen. But even doing that, it's still a way that we are socializing and that we are finding that human connection and finding people who you get along with, who you have shared interest with. It's nice to know that you're not alone, I guess is what I would probably say. Is things like YouTube fandoms or fandoms in general, things that you connect with other people over the internet. It is our way of telling ourselves and telling other people, you are not alone. You are not the only person who likes this thing or totally fangirls or fanboys over this other thing. It's fine. It's okay. You are not alone. And that is our way of finding some method of connection with our fellow human beings. It's kind of a weird way to connect. Things can get a little bit crazy, not gonna lie, the show did get a little bit crazy, but it was still... it was an experience. That's about as specific as I can get without spoiling bits of the show. But yeah, it was fun. It was a good show. I actually did try to come home and do a quick reaction vlog after I got home, but I realized I couldn't when I was holding up the camera and I was actually shaking so much that I knew that if I even tried, I would probably make somebody throw up from motion sickness. And I would definitely recommend going to it if you are a fan of Dan and Phil. If you're not a fan of Dan and Phil, then obviously you can just, ignore this whole video. But if you are a fan and you maybe can't make it to a show for whatever reason, I think that there was some kind of an announcement that they were recording the tour or something, and they might be posting it up after the tour is over. I don't know if it's going to be a YouTube thing or if it's a DVD thing. I don't know, but by the sound of it, they're recording it, so you'll still get your chance to see it. If all you want to do is, see the actual literal show itself and not really worry too much about the experience of going to the show. And then if you are a fan of Dan and Phil and you can make it to a future show, then I would definitely recommend going, because seriously, it was a lot of fun. Just be warned, you may end up losing your hearing and or voice for about the next day or so. I managed to somehow get out of it with my hearing fairly intact. My voice, we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the day. I'm basically very, very glad that I asked for today off of work so that I could recover and have recording this being pretty much the only time that I'm talking all day. Hopefully everything will be back in working order before I head back to work tomorrow. But yeah, that was kind of a supposed to be just random vlog talking about the funness of going to a show, and I think that I might have gotten a little bit existential in there at some point, but I guess that's kind of in the Dan and Phil spirit. So that is all for now. I'll talk to you later. Bye.